Have you ever fallen asleep, worried about money, and woken up with an unexpected solution appearing in your mind? And you could not explain where this solution came from, but somehow you knew it was real, and you knew it would work, and perhaps you dismissed it as just a dream. But what if I told you that this was not a dream, but a direct communication from your supply consciousness? And what if I told you that Florence Scovel Shinn discovered a way to program this communication to happen every single night? And what if I told you that in the next 2 hours, I will teach you the complete dream sequence for instant supply, and you can close your eyes now, because everything you need will enter you while you rest, and your subconscious will absorb every word, even if you fall asleep in the middle. And when you wake, the seed will already be planted, and your supply will already be moving toward you through channels you cannot yet imagine. This teaching that I am about to share with you has transformed the lives of thousands of people who were facing impossible financial situations, and they discovered that their greatest crisis became their greatest breakthrough when they learned to access the invisible supply that exists in the realm of consciousness and flows into visible form through the doorway of programmed sleep. And tonight, while you rest, this same transformation begins for you, because your subconscious mind is about to receive the exact programming that reorganizes your entire financial reality. Let me tell you about Barbara, who lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Portland, Oregon, and she was 62 years old, and she had worked as a bookkeeper for the same accounting firm for 37 years, and she took pride in her work and was known for her accuracy and attention to detail, and she had never imagined that she would find herself unemployed at this stage of her life. But the company was bought by a larger corporation, and they decided to eliminate her position to cut costs, and they gave her 2 weeks' notice and a small severance package that lasted only 3 months. Barbara had been looking for work for 8 long months, and she had sent out hundreds of resumes and gone to dozens of interviews. But every potential employer seemed to want someone younger or someone with computer skills she did not possess. And her unemployment benefits had run out, and her small savings account was completely depleted, and she was surviving on credit cards, but even those were now maxed out, and she received an eviction notice that demanded $4,237 within exactly 14 days, or she would lose her apartment. That Tuesday evening in November, Barbara sat on the edge of her bed at exactly 9:43, and the apartment was quiet, except for the sound of rain pattering against the windows, and she was holding the eviction notice in her trembling hands, and the paper was stark white, with bold red lettering that seemed to scream at her, and it felt rough and official against her fingertips, and she could smell the faint lavender scent from the candle she had lit earlier. Trying to calm her nerves, and the small lamp on her nightstand cast a warm yellow glow that created long shadows on the beige walls, and she began to cry, and the tears were warm on her cheeks, and she felt completely hopeless and abandoned, and she wondered how her life had come to this point. Barbara had never been a religious person, but that night she found herself praying desperately for a miracle, and she said out loud into the empty room, "Please God, I need help, and I do not know what to do, and I am scared, and I have nowhere to turn." And as she spoke these words, she felt even more alone because there was no answer and no sign that anyone was listening, and she felt like she was talking to empty air. After crying for what felt like hours, Barbara picked up her phone and began scrolling through the internet, looking for any kind of help or solution, and she searched for emergency financial assistance and debt relief programs, and anything that might save her from losing her home. And most of what she found seemed like scams or required qualifications she did not meet, and she was about to give up when she stumbled across an article about something called dream sequences for supply. The article was about Florence Scovel Shinn and her teachings about programming the subconscious mind during sleep to reorganize financial circumstances. And at first, Barbara almost dismissed it because it sounded too simple and too good to be true, but something made her read further, and she learned that she could speak specific words to her subconscious before falling asleep, and these words would enter her dream consciousness and work throughout the night to rearrange her reality and bring supply from unexpected sources. The teaching explained that during sleep, the conscious mind steps aside and the subconscious has direct access to infinite intelligence and can reorganize circumstances in ways that the logical mind could never conceive. And it said that many people had experienced sudden financial breakthroughs after programming their subconscious with the right decree before sleep. And Barbara felt a small spark of hope because she realized she had nothing left to lose. So Barbara turned off her phone and placed it on the nightstand, and she lay back on her bed and pulled the soft blue comforter up to her chin, and she could feel the cool cotton pillowcase against her left cheek, and she could hear the faint sound of traffic from the street below and the occasional siren in the distance. And she took a deep breath and began to repeat the words exactly as the teaching had instructed. I sleep in the consciousness of supply, and I am naturally and constantly supplied, and supply flows to me now, and supply flows through me now. At first, Barbara felt foolish speaking these words because her circumstances seemed to contradict everything she was saying. But she remembered her desperation, and she continued repeating the phrases, and as she said them over and over, her voice became softer and more drowsy, and she felt a strange sense of peace beginning to settle over her, and she drifted into the deepest sleep she had experienced in months, and her dreams were unlike anything she had ever experienced before. That night, Barbara had 3 distinct and vivid dreams, and in the first dream, she was standing in a crystal-clear river, and the water was flowing gently around her ankles, and it was warm and soothing, and she felt completely peaceful and safe, and there was golden sunlight streaming down from above, and she felt like she was being blessed and purified. And when she looked up, she saw the most beautiful blue sky she had ever seen. In the second dream, Barbara found herself sitting at a large wooden desk in what appeared to be an office, but it was brighter and more beautiful than any office she had ever seen, and someone was approaching her from behind. And she could not see the person clearly, but she could feel their presence, and they handed her a white envelope, and when she touched it, she felt overwhelming gratitude and joy flooding through her entire body, and she knew without opening it that this envelope contained exactly what she needed. In the third dream, Barbara heard a phone ringing, and the sound was clear and pleasant, and she knew somehow that she was supposed to answer it, and when she picked up the phone, a voice that was kind and reassuring said, "The solution is simpler than you think, and everything you need is already on its way to you, and you do not need to worry anymore, because it is finished," and she felt a deep sense of relief and completion. Barbara woke up the next morning at 6:57, and for the first few moments, she lay still, trying to remember where she was. And then the reality of her situation came flooding back, but strangely, she felt different, and she could not explain why, but there was a lightness in her chest that had not been there the night before, and instead of the heavy dread she had been carrying for months, she felt an inexplicable sense of anticipation, as if something good was about to happen. At exactly 10:15 that morning, Barbara's phone rang, and when she looked at the caller ID, she saw that it was her former supervisor, Janet, from the accounting firm. And Barbara answered with curiosity, wondering why Janet would be calling, and Janet sounded excited and said, "Barbara, I am so glad I reached you, because I have been thinking about you, and we discovered something that I think will help you tremendously." Janet explained that when the company was processing the final paperwork for Barbara's termination, they realized that they had made an error in calculating her accrued vacation time, and they had never paid her for the vacation days she had earned, but never taken over the past several years. And after reviewing her employment records, they determined that they owed her exactly $4,608, and Janet said the check would be ready for pickup that afternoon. Barbara almost dropped the phone because she could hardly believe what she was hearing, and the amount was more than enough to pay her rent and avoid eviction, and she realized immediately that this was connected to her dreams the night before, and especially the dream about receiving the envelope, because somehow her subconscious had been preparing her to receive this unexpected supply. But the story does not end there, because when Barbara went to the accounting firm that afternoon to pick up her check, she was walking through the parking lot when she noticed a woman struggling with boxes near a small office building, and Barbara offered to help, and the woman was grateful and explained that she was moving her bookkeeping business to this location, and she had been looking for an experienced part-time bookkeeper, and she asked if Barbara might be interested. The woman's name was Susan, and she offered Barbara exactly the type of flexible part-time position that would be perfect for someone her age, and the hourly rate was more than Barbara had been earning at her previous job, and Susan said she could start immediately, and within 48 hours, Barbara had received not only the money to save her apartment, but also ongoing income that would provide financial security, and she understood that the dream sequence had reorganized her entire field of possibility. Barbara later told me that she continued using the dream sequence technique every night for weeks, and each time she experienced new levels of supply flowing into her life, and she received unexpected refunds and gifts and opportunities. And she realized that supply is not something you have to chase or struggle for, but something that flows naturally when you align your subconscious with the consciousness of abundance. If this teaching resonates with you, and if you feel you were guided here, then touch the subscribe button now. And it is not for me, but it is so that you receive each new teaching from Florence Scovel Shinn at the exact moment your soul needs it. And these teachings come through during your sleep, when your resistance is lowest and your receiving is highest, and thousands of souls are receiving these same teachings and creating a field of collective supply that benefits everyone. And in the comments, write only these words: supply flows to me. And this is not an affirmation, but a decree. And when you write these words, you activate collective witness, and thousands of souls write these same words, and the field strengthens for everyone. And your individual supply becomes part of the collective supply, and the collective supply becomes part of your individual supply, and this creates an amplification effect that accelerates manifestation for all. If you want to support this spiritual work, there is a donation link in the description. And when you donate, you can also leave a personal message about what you are going through, and you will receive a personal response with guidance. And your donation helps these teachings reach souls who need them most. And the act of giving activates your receiving, because giving and receiving are the same movement in consciousness. And when you give, you open the channel for greater receiving. If you choose not to do this right now, that is perfectly fine, and your path is your own. But know that this is the moment of greatest power, because you are in the exact state of consciousness that allows the deepest programming, and your subconscious is open and receptive right now, and the barrier between your conscious and subconscious mind is thinnest, and this creates the optimal conditions for installing new programming, so do it if you feel aligned. Now you can relax completely, and you do not need to do anything and everything. I will share enters you while you rest, and your subconscious is awake, even when your conscious mind sleeps, and it absorbs every word and every teaching and every story. And if you fall asleep in the middle, that is perfect, because when you wake, the seed will already be planted deep in your subconscious, and your supply will already be in motion, moving toward you through channels that are being arranged. Right now, Florence Scovel Shinn lived in New York City in the year 1910, and she was a metaphysical teacher and artist who discovered something extraordinary about the relationship between sleep consciousness and supply. And she learned this not through academic study or theory, but through absolute necessity, when she lost all her savings in a business venture that failed catastrophically. And she found herself facing eviction from her small studio apartment on the Upper West Side, and she had been teaching prosperity principles to others for years. But nothing seemed to work for her personally until the night she discovered that the subconscious mind during sleep becomes a direct channel for infinite supply. Florence had been raised in a prosperous family, but she had always been drawn to the spiritual and metaphysical teachings that were emerging in her time. And she studied the works of Emma Curtis Hopkins and Thomas Troward and other New Thought pioneers, and she began teaching these principles in small groups in her apartment. But despite her deep understanding of the spiritual laws of prosperity, she found herself struggling financially, and she could not understand why the principles that seemed to work for others were not working for her. The crisis came when Florence invested her entire inheritance of $3,000 in what she believed was a legitimate business opportunity. But the man she trusted turned out to be a fraud, and he disappeared with her money and the money of dozens of other investors, and Florence was left with nothing. And she had to choose between paying rent or buying food, and she felt like a complete failure as both a teacher and as a person. And she wondered if everything she had been teaching was just wishful thinking. Florence realized that during her waking hours, her ego mind was constantly interfering with supply consciousness through doubt and analysis and fear and worry. And she noticed that even when she tried to apply the principles she taught, she found herself second-guessing and questioning and trying to figure out how supply would come instead of simply allowing it to flow. And she understood that these mental barriers were blocking the very supply she was trying to receive. But Florence also noticed that sometimes she would wake up in the morning with solutions or ideas that had not been there the night before. And she began to wonder if sleep consciousness operated differently from waking consciousness, and she started paying attention to her dreams, and she discovered that during sleep, her mind seemed to have access to wisdom and guidance that was not available during her waking hours. One particular night, when Florence was down to her last $2 and facing eviction the next morning, she decided to conduct an experiment, and she lay down on her small bed, and she spoke directly to her subconscious mind, and she said, "I am going to sleep now, and while I sleep, I want you to find a way to bring me the supply I need, and I want you to arrange circumstances so that I can pay my rent tomorrow." And she repeated these words until she fell asleep. That night, Florence had the most vivid dream of her life, and in the dream, she saw herself teaching a large group of people, and they were all listening intently to her words, and she felt a profound sense of purpose and fulfillment. And then she saw money flowing to her from multiple directions, and she knew with absolute certainty that this dream was showing her the solution to her financial crisis. And when she woke up, she felt completely different, and she knew that something had shifted during the night. The next morning, at exactly 9:30, Florence received an unexpected visit from a woman named Mrs. Hamilton, who had heard about Florence's teachings from a friend. And Mrs. Hamilton explained that she was facing a crisis in her marriage, and she desperately needed guidance, and she was willing to pay $50 for a private consultation, which was exactly the amount Florence needed for her rent. But Mrs. Hamilton also mentioned that she had several friends who were dealing with similar challenges, and she asked if Florence would consider teaching a weekly class for a group of women, and she offered to pay Florence $25 per week for these classes. And Florence realized that her dream had been showing her the exact solution, and her subconscious had arranged this opportunity while she slept. This experience led Florence to develop what she called the supply ministry of the subconscious. And she taught that your subconscious is your personal supply minister, working throughout the night to arrange circumstances for your receiving. And she discovered that during sleep, the conscious mind, with all its doubts and limitations, steps aside and allows the subconscious to access infinite intelligence and reorganize reality according to higher spiritual laws. Florence began experimenting with different ways to program her subconscious before sleep, and she discovered that the key was to give her subconscious specific instructions about what she needed and then trust completely in the process. And she found that the more specific and clear her instructions were, the more precise and rapid the manifestation would be. And she realized that sleep was not just rest, but the most powerful time for manifestation. The principle she discovered was revolutionary because it meant that you do not have to work hard or think your way into supply, but you simply need to program your subconscious before. Sleep with the right decree, and then allow your subconscious to do all the work while you rest. And she proved this principle first with herself, and then with hundreds of clients who came to her desperate for financial help. And every single person who followed her instructions experienced some form of supply manifestation within 48 to 72 hours. Mrs. Thompson was 58 years old, and she came to Florence on a cold, rainy Thursday afternoon in October. And she was a widow whose husband had died unexpectedly 6 months earlier, leaving her with massive debts that she knew nothing about and no income except a small pension that was not enough to cover even her basic expenses. and she had already sold most of her belongings, including her wedding ring and her mother's china, and she was down to her last $17, and she had nowhere to turn. Mrs. Thompson sat in Florence's small office with tears streaming down her face, and her hands were shaking as she explained her situation. And she said, "I do not understand why God has abandoned me when I have been faithful my whole life. And I prayed to Him every day, and I went to church every Sunday, and I tried to be a good person, and now I am facing the possibility of losing my home, and I do not know what I did wrong." And Florence looked at her with deep compassion and said, "God has not abandoned you, but your conscious mind has been blocking the supply that is already yours in the spiritual realm." Mrs. Thompson said, "What do you mean?" And Florence explained that supply exists in the invisible realm before it appears in the visible, and during sleep, your subconscious can access this invisible supply and rearrange circumstances to bring it into manifestation. And she told Mrs. Thompson that her conscious mind had been so focused on lack and fear that it had created a barrier between her and the infinite supply that was her spiritual birthright. Florence taught Mrs. Thompson the dream sequence technique, and she told her to lie down each night before sleep and repeat these exact words: "I sleep in the consciousness of supply, and I am naturally and constantly supplied, and supply flows to me now, and supply flows through me now." And she was to repeat these words until she fell asleep, and to trust whatever dreams came, and to pay attention to any impulses or ideas she felt upon waking, because her subconscious would use dreams and intuition to guide her toward her supply. Mrs. Thompson was deeply skeptical, and she said, "But I cannot control my dreams, and besides that, how can saying a few words change my financial situation?" And Florence smiled gently and said, "You do not need to control your dreams, but you need to program your subconscious before dreaming, and your subconscious will use the dream state to reorganize your reality according to spiritual law, and you will see results in the physical world within 48 to 72 hours if you follow the instructions." Exactly. Florence explained that during sleep, consciousness becomes fluid and malleable, and the subconscious can rearrange circumstances and relationships and opportunities in ways that the logical mind could never conceive. And she told Mrs. Thompson that many people had experienced sudden financial breakthroughs after programming their subconscious with supply consciousness, and that this was not magic, but spiritual science based on the understanding that consciousness is the only reality, and physical circumstances are simply consciousness made visible. That first night, Mrs. Thompson lay in her small bedroom, and she could hear the rain pattering against the window, and the sound was rhythmic and soothing. And she felt foolish repeating the words, but she was desperate enough to try anything. And she repeated, "I sleep in the consciousness of supply, and I am naturally and constantly supplied," until her voice became barely a whisper, and she drifted into sleep, and she dreamed of water flowing abundantly, and herself surrounded by golden light, and she woke feeling strangely hopeful for the first time in months. The next morning at exactly 8:45, Mrs. Thompson received a phone call from a lawyer she had never heard of, and he told her that her late husband had a life insurance policy through his union that no one in the family knew about. And according to the records, Mrs. Thompson was the sole beneficiary, and the amount was $735, and the check would arrive within 3 business days. And Mrs. Thompson was stunned, because this was exactly enough to cover her most pressing debts and buy her some time to figure out a longer-term solution. But Florence had taught her to continue the dream sequence for 7 consecutive nights, because the first manifestation opens the channel for larger supply, and Mrs. Thompson faithfully programmed her subconscious each night, and by the end of the week she had received 2 more unexpected payments, including a refund from an overpaid utility bill and a small inheritance from a distant relative she had forgotten about. And she also received a job offer from a woman at her church who needed help with bookkeeping for her small business. Mrs. Thompson's financial crisis was completely resolved within 10 days, and she understood that her subconscious had been working throughout her sleep to rearrange her circumstances and bring her the supply she needed. And she realized that supply had always been available to her, but her conscious mind had been blocking it through fear and doubt and negative expectations. Florence explained to Mrs. Thompson that while you sleep, your subconscious reorders reality according to the decree, and supply does not come from outside, but through the reorganization of the field of consciousness. And this is why the technique works better during sleep, because the ego cannot interfere and the subconscious has complete access to infinite intelligence and universal supply. This principle that Florence discovered became the foundation for all her supply work, and she taught that your dream mind is your supply mind, and the 8 hours you spend sleeping each night are the most powerful hours for manifestation, because consciousness is fluid during sleep and can reshape circumstances with divine efficiency. And she proved this over and over again with thousands of students who experienced miraculous financial breakthroughs simply by programming their subconscious before sleep. Florence understood that most people use sleep unconsciously and waste those precious 8 hours when they could be actively creating their desired reality, and she taught that when you program your subconscious before sleep, you transform those hours into a manifestation laboratory where your supply consciousness can work without interference from doubt or analysis or fear. And this is the secret that changes everything for those who apply it faithfully. There is a profound difference between dreaming about supply and decreeing supply through your dreams. And Florence Scovel Shinn understood that most people use sleep unconsciously as merely a time of rest. But when you program your subconscious before sleep, you transform those 8 hours into a powerful manifestation laboratory, where your supply consciousness can work without any interference from doubt or analysis or fear. And the key is understanding that your dream mind operates as a magnetic field that draws circumstances into perfect alignment with your decreed reality. During REM sleep, your subconscious enters what Florence called the supply dimension, where all abundance already exists in perfect form, waiting to be claimed, and your programmed decree becomes like a magnet that draws the specific supply you need from this invisible storehouse into visible manifestation. And this is not wishful thinking or positive thinking, but spiritual science, based on the understanding that consciousness is the only reality, and physical circumstances are simply consciousness made visible through the filter of your beliefs and programming. The preparation before sleep is sacred ritual, and Florence taught that you must approach it with reverence and intention, because you are accessing divine power and connecting with infinite intelligence. And the first movement of the dream sequence technique begins with lying down in complete physical comfort and closing your eyes and taking 3 deep breaths to center yourself, and then speaking these words with complete conviction. I sleep in the consciousness of supply. And as you repeat these words, you feel them entering your subconscious like seeds being planted in fertile soil. Your subconscious mind is most receptive during the drowsy state just before sleep, when the critical factor of the conscious mind relaxes and allows new programming to enter without resistance. And this is why affirmations and programming work best during this twilight state between waking and sleeping, because the subconscious accepts whatever you tell it during this vulnerable time and begins immediately to reorganize your reality to match the new programming. Charles was 59 years old, and he owned a small family farm in Iowa, and he had been farming the same 200 acres for 32 years, and this land had been in his family for 3 generations, and his grandfather had homesteaded it in 1897, and Charles felt a deep connection to the soil and the cycles of planting and harvest, and he had raised his 3 children on this farm and planned to pass it on to them. But series of devastating droughts had destroyed 2 consecutive harvests, and the bank was now demanding $43,800 within 30 days, or they would foreclose and take the land. Charles had tried everything he could think of to raise the money, including applying for emergency loans and reaching out to relatives and even considering selling his farm equipment. But nothing had worked, and he felt like he was failing, not only himself, but also his ancestors who had worked so hard to build this legacy, and his children who would inherit nothing if he lost the farm. And the weight of this responsibility was crushing him and keeping him awake at night with worry and anxiety. On the Tuesday evening after receiving the final foreclosure notice, Charles sat on the edge of his bed at exactly 11:23, and the farmhouse was quiet, except for the sound of wind moving through the bare trees outside, and he was holding the letter from the bank in his rough, weathered hands. And the paper felt cold and official and threatening, and he could hear his wife Margaret crying softly in the kitchen downstairs as she worked on the monthly bills, and he could smell the lingering scent of the beef stew she had made for dinner, and the bedroom was dark except for the small lamp on his nightstand that cast long shadows on the faded wallpaper. Charles had always been a practical man who believed in hard work and perseverance, but he had reached the point where hard work was not enough, and he felt overwhelmed by the weight of potentially losing everything his family had built over 3 generations, and he had never been interested in spiritual or metaphysical teachings. But that afternoon, while desperately searching online for any possible solution, he had stumbled across something about dream sequences for financial breakthroughs. The teaching was about Florence Scovel Shinn and her discovery that the subconscious mind during sleep could reorganize circumstances and bring supply from unexpected sources. And at first, Charles dismissed it as nonsense because it seemed too simple and too good to be true. But his desperation had created an opening for faith that had not existed before, and he realized that he had exhausted every conventional option and had nothing left to lose by trying something unconventional. That night, Charles lay down on his side of the bed that he had shared with Margaret for 34 years, and he could feel the familiar comfort of the quilt that Margaret's mother had made for them as a wedding gift, and he could hear the old house settling and creaking around him, and the wind rattling the windows, and he took a deep breath and began to repeat the words exactly as the teaching had instructed. I sleep in the consciousness of supply, and I am naturally and constantly supplied, and supply flows to me now, and supply flows through me now. At first, Charles felt foolish speaking these words because they seemed to contradict everything he was experiencing, and his practical mind kept telling him that words could not change his financial situation. But then he remembered his grandfather's stories about the power of faith and how his grandfather had always said that farming required believing in things you could not see and trusting in forces beyond your control. And Charles realized that maybe this was not so different from planting seeds and trusting that they would grow. As Charles continued repeating the words, his voice became softer and more rhythmic, and he felt his body beginning to relax in a way it had not relaxed in months, and the constant tension in his shoulders and neck began to ease, and he felt something shifting in his chest, as if a door was opening to a place he had never accessed before. And as he drifted into sleep, he held on to the feeling of the words and let them carry him into the deepest rest he had experienced since the financial crisis began. That night, Charles had a series of vivid dreams that were unlike anything he had ever experienced. And in the first dream, he was standing in his cornfield. But instead of the brown withered stalks that had been destroyed by drought, the field was lush and green, and the corn was tall and healthy, and there was water flowing abundantly through irrigation channels, and he could feel the rich black soil beneath his feet. And he knew somehow that this was not just a dream, but a preview of what was possible. In the second dream, Charles found himself in the barn, but it was filled with new equipment and machinery that gleamed in the sunlight streaming through the open doors, and he felt deep peace and gratitude and a sense of completion, as if everything had worked out exactly as it was meant to, and he could hear his children laughing and playing outside, and he knew that the farm would continue for another generation. Charles woke up at 5:47 in the morning, which was his usual time, and for a moment he lay still, trying to hold on to the feeling of the dreams. And then the reality of his situation came flooding back. But strangely, he felt different, and there was a clarity in his mind that had not been there the night before. And instead of the usual anxiety and dread, he felt an inexplicable sense of anticipation, as if something good was about to happen. At exactly 9:15 that morning, Charles was checking on his remaining livestock when his phone rang, and he saw that it was his neighbor Tom, who owned the adjacent farm. And Charles answered, wondering what Tom might want. And Tom sounded excited and said, "Charles, I have been thinking about your situation, and I know you are going through some challenges, and I want to help, and I have decided that I want to buy your South 40 acres, and I can pay cash immediately." Charles was stunned because the South 40 was his least productive land, and he had never considered that Tom might be interested in it. And Tom explained that he had been planning to expand his operation for months, but something had held him back until he woke up that morning with an urgent feeling that he needed to call Charles immediately, and the amount Tom offered was $48,200, which was not only enough to save the farm, but also left Charles with extra money to invest in improvements. But what amazed Charles even more was Tom's explanation that he had been lying awake the night before, thinking about Charles, and suddenly he felt absolutely certain that he needed to make this offer. And he could not explain why, but he knew it was the right thing to do, and Charles realized that his dream sequence had not only programmed his own subconscious, but had somehow influenced Tom's subconscious as well, and the field of supply had reorganized itself to bring them together at the perfect moment. Over the next few days, Charles experienced several more synchronicities, including a call from a seed company offering him a discount on next year's corn seed, and a visit from a county extension agent who informed him about a new drought-resistant farming technique that could significantly increase his yields, and he understood that his subconscious had been working while he slept to arrange all of these opportunities and connections. This is the first movement of the dream sequence technique, and you repeat the decree. I sleep in the consciousness of supply until you fall asleep, and you do not need to believe it with your conscious mind, but you simply need to allow it to enter your subconscious. And you trust whatever dreams come, because your subconscious knows exactly how to translate your decree into visible form, and you maintain this practice for 7 consecutive nights to establish the supply channel permanently in your consciousness. The key understanding is that during sleep, your conscious mind, with all its doubts and limitations, steps aside, and your subconscious has direct access to infinite intelligence and can reorganize circumstances in ways that the logical mind could never conceive. And this is why programming before sleep is so much more powerful than trying to think your way into supply during your waking hours. While you rest now, your supply consciousness is awakening, and you do not need to understand the mechanism or figure out how it works, but simply trust that 8 hours of programmed sleep is infinitely more powerful than 16 hours of worried thinking. And what comes next is about establishing your identity as someone who naturally receives, because identity precedes manifestation in the realm of supply. And when you change who you are being, everything else changes automatically. The deepest teaching Florence Scovel Shinn ever shared was that you do not attract what you want, but you manifest what you are. And during sleep, your personality dissolves and your true spiritual identity emerges. And this is why sleep programming is so profoundly powerful, because the false identity that struggles and lacks and worries cannot maintain itself during dream consciousness, and your natural identity as a supplied being can finally express itself without interference from limiting beliefs or past conditioning or social programming. Your sleep identity completely overwrites your waking identity. And Florence discovered that if you program yourself to sleep as someone who is naturally and constantly supplied, then you wake up carrying that identity into your daily experience, and supply begins flowing to you effortlessly, because you are no longer someone who needs supply, but someone who channels supply. And this fundamental shift from needing to being is the secret that transforms everything and creates permanent change rather than temporary improvement. During REM sleep, your consciousness becomes fluid and malleable, like clay in the hands of a skilled artist, and you can literally reprogram your core identity by declaring who you are rather than what you want. And the second movement of the dream sequence is to repeat with deep conviction, I am naturally and constantly supplied. And as you say these words during the drowsy state before sleep, you feel this new identity settling into your subconscious like a powerful program being installed that will run automatically in the background of your life. The difference between affirming what you want and declaring who you are is the difference between temporary manifestation and permanent transformation. And when you declare your identity as a naturally supplied being, your subconscious begins to reorganize every aspect of your life to align with this truth, and opportunities and people and circumstances begin flowing toward you. Because your energy field is now broadcasting supply consciousness rather than lack consciousness. Patricia was 64 years old, and she had been a professional artist for her entire adult life, and she lived in a small studio apartment in San Francisco that served as both her home and her workspace, and she had been painting seriously for 43 years. And her work was beautiful and deeply meaningful, but it had never sold well, and she was constantly struggling financially and surviving on a series of part-time jobs that left her exhausted and unable to focus on her art with the passion and energy she once had. Patricia had always identified herself as a struggling artist, and she wore this identity like a badge of honor because she believed that suffering was necessary for authentic creativity, and she told herself that commercial success would somehow compromise her artistic integrity, and that true artists were supposed to be poor and misunderstood. But the truth was that her identity as a struggling artist was creating the very struggle she experienced, and her subconscious was manifesting circumstances that confirmed this limiting belief about artists and money. Over the years, Patricia had internalized the cultural myth that spirituality and creativity were incompatible with financial abundance, and she believed that wanting money for her art was somehow selfish or unspiritual, and this belief had created a massive block in her ability to receive compensation for her talents. And every time an opportunity for financial success appeared, she would unconsciously sabotage it because it threatened her identity as a pure, struggling artist. On a cold Wednesday evening in February, Patricia was sitting in her cramped studio apartment, surrounded by stacks of unsold paintings, and she had exactly $47 to her name. And she needed to pay rent in 6 days, and she had no paintings ready to sell and no prospects for income. And she was eating a can of tomato soup for dinner because it was all she could afford, and she felt like a complete failure as both an artist and as a human being. Patricia had reached the point where she was seriously considering giving up painting altogether and getting a full-time administrative job just to survive. But the thought of abandoning her art felt like dying, and she did not know how to reconcile her need for financial security with her calling as an artist, and she felt trapped between her passion and her practical needs, and she blamed herself for being impractical and unrealistic. That night, while searching online for rental assistance programs, Patricia discovered an article about dream sequence identity programming, and she learned that she could change her fundamental identity during sleep by declaring herself to be naturally supplied rather than naturally struggling and at first, this felt completely false and uncomfortable because she had been identifying as a struggling artist for so many years that she did not know who she would be without the struggle. The teaching explained that her identity as a struggling artist was not her true spiritual identity, but a learned pattern based on cultural conditioning and limiting beliefs, and that her true identity was as a channel for divine creativity, and that creativity and abundance were meant to flow together because beauty and prosperity both come from the same source, and when she aligned with her true identity as a naturally supplied artist, everything would change. Patricia realized that she had been unconsciously choosing struggle because it felt familiar and safe, even though it was painful, and she understood that changing her identity would require courage because she would have to let go of the familiar suffering and step into an unknown version of herself. And this felt both terrifying and exciting, because she sensed that this was the breakthrough she had been waiting for. That night, Patricia lay down on her small bed at 10:37, and she could feel the thin mattress beneath her back, and she could hear sirens wailing in the distance and the sounds of the city that never sleeps. And the room was chilly because she kept the heat low to save money. And she pulled her worn blanket up to her chin and began to repeat the words, "I am naturally and constantly supplied, and I am a naturally supplied artist." And at first the words felt foreign and untrue on her tongue. As Patricia continued repeating the identity decree, she began to imagine what it would feel like to be an artist who was naturally supplied. And she envisioned herself in a beautiful, bright studio with abundant art supplies and natural light streaming through large windows. and she imagined collectors and galleries seeking out her work and appreciating not only her talent, but being willing to pay well for it, and she felt what it would be like to create from joy and inspiration rather than desperation and fear. Patricia allowed herself to feel into this new identity, and she imagined waking up each morning excited about her art without worrying about money, and she saw herself confidently pricing her work according to its true value. And she felt the freedom that would come from being able to focus completely on her creativity without the constant distraction of financial stress. And as she drifted into sleep, she held onto this feeling of being naturally supplied. That night, Patricia had a series of powerful dreams where she saw herself painting with complete confidence and ease, and her movements were fluid and inspired, and she felt deeply connected to her creative source. And in one dream, she was in a beautiful gallery surrounded by people who were admiring her work, and she felt valued and appreciated and successful. And in another dream, she was teaching art to eager students in a bright studio, and feeling fulfilled and prosperous and sharing her gifts generously. When Patricia woke up the next morning, she felt fundamentally different, and she moved through her small apartment with a new sense of purpose and possibility. And instead of the usual anxiety about money, she felt calm and confident, and she began working on a new painting with more energy and inspiration than she had felt in years. And she found herself pricing it at a higher amount than she had ever charged before. At exactly 11:42 that morning, Patricia's phone rang, and it was a woman named Sarah who had found Patricia's work online through a local artist's directory. And Sarah said she had been looking for the right artist to commission a painting for her husband's 50th birthday, and something about Patricia's work had spoken to her immediately, and she wanted to discuss commissioning a custom piece. Sarah was willing to pay $600 for the commission, which was more than Patricia usually charged for her existing work. And Sarah explained that she had been searching for weeks for an artist whose style matched what she was envisioning. And when she saw Patricia's paintings online, she knew immediately that Patricia was the right person, and she had called first thing in the morning because she was excited to get started. But the transformation did not stop there, because over the next few days, Patricia received 2 more inquiries about her work, including one from a woman who wanted to buy 3 existing paintings and another from a local coffee shop that wanted to display and sell her work on consignment. And within 2 weeks, Patricia had sold 5 paintings and booked 4 more commissions, and her entire financial situation had completely turned around. Patricia realized that when she changed her identity from struggling artist to naturally supplied artist, her entire energy field had shifted, and she was now attracting people and opportunities that matched her new identity, and she understood that her previous struggle had not been caused by external circumstances, but by her own internal programming. And when she changed the programming, everything else changed automatically. This is the second movement of the dream sequence, and you repeat with conviction, "I am naturally and constantly supplied," as you fall asleep. And you feel this new identity settling into your bones and becoming part of your cellular memory. And you understand that supply does not come to you, but flows through you, because you are a natural channel for abundance, and you maintain this programming for 7 consecutive nights until this identity becomes permanently installed in your subconscious. The key is to feel into this identity as if it is already true, because at the spiritual level, it is already true. And you are simply remembering who you really are beneath all the conditioning and programming that has convinced you that you are separate from supply. And when you reclaim your true identity as a naturally supplied being, everything in your external world shifts to match this inner truth. Your supply identity is already awakening as you listen to these words, and during sleep, false beliefs about lack and struggle dissolve naturally without effort. And you do not need to fight against limiting beliefs, but simply install new programming, and your subconscious accepts whatever you declare during the vulnerable state before sleep, and begins immediately to reorganize your reality to match your declared identity. So continue with me, because what comes next is about dissolving resistance without struggle. The ego mind fights against supply even in dreams because it has invested years and sometimes decades in the identity of struggle and lack. And Florence Scovel Shinn taught that resistance appears strongest just before breakthrough, because the old consciousness makes one final desperate attempt to maintain control and keep you locked in familiar patterns. But sleep provides the perfect opportunity to dissolve resistance effortlessly, because during dream state, the ego cannot maintain its rigid grip, and your natural receiving consciousness can emerge without opposition from limiting beliefs. Resistance to supply takes many subtle and not so subtle forms, including deep feelings of unworthiness and fear of receiving abundance and doubt about deserving good things and concern about what others will think if you suddenly prosper and worry that accepting supply somehow takes away from others who are struggling. And these resistances operate like invisible barriers that block the natural flow of abundance. But when you surrender these resistances during sleep, they dissolve effortlessly, because surrender is the natural state of consciousness during rest. Understanding the nature of resistance is crucial, because most people try to fight against their resistance, which only makes it stronger and more entrenched. But Florence discovered that resistance dissolves naturally when you simply acknowledge it without judgment and then surrender it to the higher power that operates during sleep. And this surrender is not passive, but the most powerful act you can take, because it allows divine intelligence to reorganize your consciousness without interference from the ego. The third movement of the dream sequence involves releasing resistance through a simple but profound surrender ceremony before sleep, and you lie down comfortably and acknowledge any fears or doubts or unworthiness that arise in your consciousness, and you speak directly to your subconscious mind and say with complete sincerity, "I surrender all resistance to my natural supply, and I release all fear of receiving, and I trust the divine process completely." And then you allow sleep to carry away everything that does not serve your highest good. Richard was 56 years old, and he had built what everyone considered a successful construction business over 28 years, and he employed 43 hardworking people and was known throughout his community as an honest contractor who delivered quality work on time and within budget. But a series of unexpected setbacks had pushed his business to the very edge of bankruptcy, and he was facing the real possibility of losing everything he had worked for and disappointing all the people who depended on him. The crisis had begun 6 months earlier, when his largest client defaulted on a payment of $32,000 for a commercial project that Richard had already completed. And while he was dealing with that cash flow problem, one of his excavators broke down and required expensive repairs, and then a disgruntled former employee filed a lawsuit claiming workplace discrimination. And even though the claims were baseless, the legal fees were mounting and the stress was overwhelming. Richard prided himself on being completely self-reliant, and he had built his business from nothing through hard work and determination, and he had never asked for help from anyone, and the thought of accepting assistance felt like admitting failure and weakness. And he was raised by a father who believed that a real man should handle his problems alone, and asking for help was a sign of character deficiency. And these beliefs had created massive resistance to receiving any form of supply that he had not earned through his own effort and struggle. On a Thursday evening in March, Richard sat alone in his office after everyone had gone home. And the building was quiet, except for the hum of the fluorescent lights, and he was looking at the stack of unpaid bills on his desk and doing calculations on his yellow legal pad, and the total amount he owed was $67,412, and he needed to find a solution within 2 weeks, or he would have to declare bankruptcy and lay off all 43 of his employees. Richard felt like he was carrying the weight of 43 families on his shoulders, and he knew that many of his employees had worked for him for years and trusted him to provide stable employment, and the thought of letting them down was more painful than the thought of losing his own financial security. And he had always seen himself as someone who solved problems rather than someone who had problems that needed solving. That evening, Richard's wife Ellen noticed his distress, and she showed him something she had found online about dream sequences for financial breakthroughs. And she said, "Gently, maybe you should try this, because nothing else is working, and you cannot keep carrying this burden alone." And Richard was initially skeptical because he had never been interested in anything spiritual or metaphysical, but he was also desperate enough to consider options he would normally dismiss. Ellen explained that the teaching was about programming the subconscious mind during sleep to release resistance and allow supply to flow. And she pointed out that Richard had been trying to solve everything with his conscious mind for months without success, and maybe it was time to try a different approach. And Richard realized that his pride and self-reliance might actually be part of the problem rather than part of the solution. That night, Richard lay in bed at 11:53, and he could feel the familiar tension in his shoulders and neck from months of stress. And he could hear Ellen breathing softly beside him, and the room was dark and peaceful, and he felt awkward and uncertain about speaking to his subconscious, but he was desperate enough to try anything, and he began to speak quietly. I surrender all resistance to receiving help, and I release my need to do everything alone, and I trust that supply can come through channels I have not considered. At first, these words felt completely foreign and uncomfortable because they challenged everything Richard believed about himself and his role as a provider and protector. But as he continued speaking, he began to feel a lightness in his chest that he had not experienced in months, and he realized how much energy he had been using to maintain his image of complete self-sufficiency and how exhausting it was to carry everything alone. Richard continued the surrender ceremony, and he said, I release my fear of appearing weak, and I surrender my need to control every outcome. And I trust that there are solutions I cannot see and people who want to help me. And as he spoke these words, he felt like he was releasing a heavy burden that he had been carrying not just for months, but for years, and possibly his entire adult life. As Richard drifted into sleep, he felt something fundamental shifting in his consciousness, and that night, he had several powerful dreams. And in one dream, he was accepting help from friends and colleagues, and instead of feeling ashamed or diminished, he felt grateful and supported and connected. And in another dream, he was collaborating with other contractors instead of competing, and he felt the strength that comes from working together rather than struggling alone. When Richard woke up the next morning, he felt different in a way he could not quite explain, and instead of his usual impulse to immediately start making phone calls and trying to solve everything himself, he felt calm and open and receptive, and he had a sense that something good was about to happen, even though logically, nothing had changed. At exactly 9:27 that morning, Richard received a phone call from his old friend Michael, who owned a large construction company in the neighboring city. And Michael said, Richard, I heard through the grapevine that you might be going through some challenges, and I have been thinking about you, and I have more work than I can handle right now. And I would like to subcontract some projects to you. If you are interested, Michael offered terms that would provide exactly the cash flow Richard needed to stabilize his business and get back on solid ground. And he explained that he had been considering this for weeks, but something had held him back until he woke up that morning with a strong feeling that he should reach out to Richard immediately and offer this partnership. But what surprised Richard even more was how natural and comfortable it felt to accept Michael's offer. And he realized that his surrender ceremony had not only released his own resistance to receiving help, but had somehow cleared the energetic field between him and Michael, so that Michael felt free to make the offer without either of them feeling awkward about it. Over the next 10 days, Richard received 3 more unexpected opportunities, including a referral to a major development project from a former client and an offer from his primary supplier to extend payment terms for 90 days, and a suggestion from his accountant about a tax credit for small businesses that he had overlooked. And all of these solutions came through existing connections and resources that had been available all along, but his resistance to receiving had made them invisible. Richard understood that his resistance had not been protecting him, but had actually been blocking the very help he needed. And when he surrendered the resistance through sleep programming, the solutions appeared quickly and naturally, and he realized that supply and support had always been available, but his beliefs about self-reliance had created barriers that prevented him from receiving. This is the third movement of the dream sequence, and you speak directly to your subconscious before sleep, and you say with complete sincerity, I surrender all resistance to my natural supply, and you release any fear or unworthiness or doubt or concern about what others will think. And you trust that during sleep, these resistances dissolve naturally, because surrender is not effort, but simply allowing, and you do not need to analyze or understand the process, but only to release and trust. The key understanding is that resistance is not your enemy, but simply old programming that served you in the past, but no longer serves your highest good. And when you surrender resistance with love and gratitude rather than fighting against it, the resistance dissolves peacefully, and your natural receiving consciousness can emerge and express itself freely. While you rest now, resistance dissolves naturally without any effort on your part, and you do not need to do anything but allow something greater than your conscious mind to move through you and reorganize your consciousness, and your subconscious is already releasing whatever blocks your supply and preparing you to receive in ways you cannot yet imagine. And what comes next is about reading the divine language of dreams, because your subconscious communicates through symbols and feelings and intuitions that guide you toward your manifestation. Your subconscious mind speaks to you through the language of dreams, and Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that when you program your sleep consciousness for supply, your dreams become like a divine communication system that guides you toward your manifestation through symbols and feelings and intuitive impressions that your logical mind could never create. And learning to read these dream signs is the fourth movement of the complete dream sequence, because your subconscious not only reorganizes reality while you sleep, but also shows you exactly what to expect and when to expect it. Florence understood that there are three distinct levels of dream communication, and the first level is symbolic, where your subconscious uses images and metaphors to show you the energy and essence of your supply manifestation. And the second level is emotional, where you experience the feelings of already having received your supply. And the third level is directive, where your subconscious gives you specific guidance about actions to take or people to contact. And when you understand these three levels, you can decode any dream and extract the precise guidance your subconscious is providing. The symbolic level often uses water imagery, because water represents the flow of abundance, and if you dream of clear-flowing water or waterfalls or rivers or rain, it means your supply is flowing freely toward you. And if you dream of yourself swimming or bathing in water, it means you are aligning with supply consciousness. And if you dream of giving water to others, it means your supply will come through service and generosity. And these water symbols are universal in the language of supply consciousness. Golden light or sunshine in dreams represents divine intelligence, illuminating the path to your supply. And if you dream of being surrounded by golden light, it means you are being blessed and prepared to receive. And if you dream of sunrise or bright daylight, it means your manifestation is emerging from the invisible into the visible realm. And if you dream of yourself glowing with inner light, it means you have become a magnet for abundant supply. Nancy was 61 years old, and she lived alone in a small cottage in Vermont after her divorce 5 years earlier, and she had been working as a part-time librarian. But the library was cutting hours, and she was facing a significant reduction in her already modest income. And she had been applying the dream sequence technique for 3 nights, and she was beginning to have remarkable dreams that seemed to be guiding her toward unexpected solutions. On the 3rd night of programming, her subconscious, Nancy, had an incredibly vivid dream that began with her standing beside a beautiful crystal-clear lake, and the water was so transparent she could see smooth stones on the bottom and golden fish swimming in graceful patterns, and the sun was shining brilliantly overhead, creating sparkles on the water's surface, and she felt deeply peaceful and abundant. And somehow she knew this lake represented infinite supply. In the dream, Nancy saw herself filling a silver pitcher with the clear water from the lake, and as she lifted the pitcher, she realized it never became empty, no matter how much water she poured out. And she began sharing this water with other people who appeared beside the lake, and everyone who drank from her pitcher immediately looked healthier and happier and more radiant. And Nancy felt tremendous joy in being able to give endlessly without depleting herself. The second part of Nancy's dream found her walking through a beautiful garden filled with flowers she had never seen before, and the colors were more vibrant than any she had experienced in waking life. And she came to a stone bench where an elderly woman was sitting, and the woman smiled warmly and handed Nancy a small leather journal and said, "Write down what you truly love, and people will pay you well to share it." And Nancy felt a surge of excitement because she understood immediately what this meant. When Nancy woke up, she felt energized and inspired in a way she had not felt in years, and she understood that the lake represented unlimited supply, and the fact that her pitcher never emptied meant she was being prepared to give and receive simultaneously. And the garden represented creativity and beauty, and the instruction to write down what she loved was specific guidance about her next steps. Nancy had always loved books and reading and helping people discover stories that would enrich their lives, but she had never considered that this passion could become a source of income, and the dream had shown her that her love of literature was actually her gateway to supply, and over the next few days, she began receiving intuitive ideas about how to monetize her knowledge and expertise. That morning, Nancy felt compelled to visit the local coffee shop, where she often went to read, and she had never spoken to other customers before, but suddenly she felt confident and outgoing, and she began talking to a woman who was struggling to choose a book from the coffee shop's small library. And Nancy made several recommendations, and the woman was so grateful that she asked if Nancy offered personal book consulting services. The woman explained that she was a busy executive who loved to read but never knew what to choose, and she would gladly pay someone to curate personalized reading lists for her and her friends. And Nancy realized this was exactly what her dream had been preparing her for. And within a week, she had 3 paying clients for her new book consulting service, and the income was already replacing what she was losing at the library. Nancy continued having meaningful dreams that guided her business development, and in one dream, she saw herself leading a group of people in a circle sharing stories and insights about books they had read. And this dream inspired her to start a monthly book salon in her cottage, where people paid a small fee to attend guided discussions about carefully chosen books. And this became another income stream that grew rapidly through word of mouth. The emotional level of dream signs is equally important, because your subconscious shows you how it feels to already have your supply manifestation. And these feelings are not just pleasant experiences, but actual programming that aligns your vibration with receiving. And when you wake up feeling grateful and abundant and excited, these emotions become magnets that draw your supply toward you in the physical realm. Nancy had another powerful dream where she found herself in a beautiful bookshop that somehow belonged to her, and customers were browsing happily among carefully curated collections, and she was helping them find exactly the right books for their needs. And she felt completely fulfilled and prosperous and useful. And when she woke up, she carried this feeling of fulfillment into her daily activities, and it attracted even more opportunities. The directive level of dream signs provides specific, actionable guidance, and your subconscious might show you exactly which person to call, or what action to take, or where to go. And these directive dreams often feel different from symbolic dreams because they have a quality of urgency or clarity that makes them impossible to ignore. And following this guidance always leads to supply manifestation. In one of Nancy's directive dreams, she saw herself clearly writing an email to her former college professor, Dr. Williams, who had taught her favorite literature class. And in the dream, she was telling him about her new book consulting business and asking if he knew anyone who might be interested. And the dream was so vivid and specific that when she woke up, she immediately wrote the exact email she had seen herself writing. Dr. Williams responded enthusiastically and explained that he had been looking for someone to recommend to his adult students who wanted guided reading programs, and he had several colleagues at other universities who were seeking the same service. And within 2 weeks, Nancy had more clients than she could handle, and she realized that her subconscious had known exactly who could help her expand her business. Florence taught that dreams work best when you record them immediately upon waking because the conscious mind quickly forgets the subtle details that contain the most important guidance. And she recommended keeping a dream journal beside your bed and writing down everything you remember, even if it seems meaningless. because often the significance becomes clear later when the manifestation unfolds. The key to reading dream signs accurately is to pay attention to how the dreams make you feel rather than trying to analyze them intellectually, because your emotional response to the dream symbols is actually more important than the symbols themselves. And if a dream leaves you feeling peaceful and hopeful and excited, then it is confirming that your supply is on its way, regardless of what specific images appeared. Water dreams are especially significant in supply manifestation. And if you dream of clean flowing water in any form, it means your supply channel is open and abundant flow is coming. And if you dream of yourself in water, feeling comfortable and safe, it means you are aligning with the natural rhythm of receiving. And if you dream of water overflowing or flooding in a positive way, it means your supply will exceed your expectations. Light dreams indicate divine intervention and blessing. And if you dream of bright sunshine or golden light or yourself glowing with inner radiance, it means you are being prepared to receive, and your manifestation is being accelerated by higher forces. And if you dream of dawn or sunrise, it means your supply is transitioning from the invisible realm into visible form. Gift dreams, or dreams of receiving something unexpected, indicate that your supply will come as a surprise through channels you have not considered. And if you dream of being given money, or valuable objects, or opportunities, it means your subconscious is preparing you to recognize and accept the gifts that are already being arranged in your physical reality. People dreams where helpful strangers or guides appear are especially important because they often represent the actual people who will be involved in your supply manifestation. And if you dream of someone giving you advice or assistance, pay close attention, because you may encounter this person or someone very similar in your waking life within days or weeks. The fourth movement of the dream sequence involves asking your subconscious before sleep to show you clear signs about your supply manifestation. And you say, "I receive clear guidance through my dreams, and I trust the wisdom of my subconscious mind to show me exactly what I need to know." And then you pay attention to whatever images or feelings or messages come through your dreams, and you record them and look for the patterns and guidance they contain. Your subconscious is already preparing meaningful dreams for you. And while you sleep tonight, your inner wisdom will communicate through symbols and feelings that guide you toward your supply. And you do not need to force or analyze, but simply receive and trust, because the intelligence that operates during sleep knows exactly how to lead you to your manifestation through the gentle guidance of dreams. Continue resting and allowing, because what comes next is about divine timing and how your dreams show you not only what will manifest, but when it will manifest, because your subconscious operates outside of linear time and can show you the perfect timing for your supply to appear in your physical reality. Divine timing is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of supply manifestation, because human consciousness operates in linear time, while spiritual consciousness operates in eternal time. And Florence Scovel Shinn discovered that your subconscious during sleep can access what she called the eternal now, where all manifestations already exist in completed form, and your dreams can show you not only what will manifest, but the precise timing when it will appear in your physical reality. Understanding divine timing through dream sequences requires surrendering the human need for immediate gratification and trusting that your subconscious knows the perfect moment for your supply to manifest. And this perfect timing serves multiple purposes, including ensuring that you are fully prepared to receive, and that all necessary people and circumstances are aligned, and that your manifestation serves the highest good for everyone involved. Florence taught that impatience is actually a form of resistance that blocks supply, because when you demand that your manifestation appear according to your human timeline, you interfere with the divine intelligence that is orchestrating perfect timing. And she discovered that people who trusted divine timing always received more abundant supply than those who tried to force manifestation according to their own schedules. Your subconscious communicates timing information through dream symbols that represent different phases of manifestation and spring imagery, like flowers blooming or trees budding, indicates that your supply is in the early stages of Manifestation and summer imagery like full sunshine or abundant harvests indicates that manifestation is accelerating, and autumn imagery like fruit being gathered suggests that your supply is almost ready to appear, and winter imagery followed by spring represents a period of rest before sudden breakthrough. Urgency in dreams where you feel compelled to take immediate action usually indicates that the timing for manifestation is very close, and your subconscious is preparing you to recognize and respond to opportunities that will appear within days or weeks. And these urgent dreams often feel different from symbolic dreams because they carry an energy of immediacy that motivates you to take specific actions without delay. David was 67 years old, and he had been retired for 2 years after working as a high school math teacher for 41 years. And he lived on a modest pension that barely covered his basic expenses, and he had been hoping to supplement his income with some kind of part-time work, but employers seemed to assume he was too old to learn new skills, and his confidence had been shaken by multiple rejections. David's financial pressure had intensified when his old car broke down, and the repair cost was $2,800, which was money he simply did not have, and he needed reliable transportation to look for work and to maintain his independence. But he could not afford a car payment, and he felt trapped in a cycle where he needed money to make money, and he could not see any way out of his situation. After learning about dream sequence programming, David began applying the technique faithfully every night, and he was particularly interested in receiving guidance about timing, because he was tired of the uncertainty and anxiety of not knowing when or how his financial situation would improve, and he asked his subconscious to show him when he could expect his supply breakthrough. On the 5th night of programming, David had an extraordinarily detailed dream that seemed to unfold like a movie with multiple scenes. And the dream began with him standing in a garden in early spring, and he could see tiny green shoots pushing up through the soil. And he felt excited because he knew these shoots would become beautiful flowers, but he also understood that they needed time to grow. In the next scene of the dream, David found himself in the same garden, but now it was late spring, and the shoots had become small plants with buds that were just beginning to open. And he felt anticipation building because he could see that something beautiful was about to emerge, and he knew he needed to be patient for just a little longer. The 3rd scene showed the garden in early summer, and the flowers were in full bloom, and more beautiful than anything David had ever seen. And butterflies were flying among the flowers, and he felt overwhelming joy and gratitude, and he understood that the timing had been perfect because the flowers needed the full cycle of seasons to reach their potential. The final scene of the dream showed David sitting on a bench in the garden, surrounded by the magnificent flowers, and a man approached him and said, "I have been looking for someone exactly like you, and I have a proposition that will change everything for you." And the man handed David an envelope and said, "Open this when you wake up." And David felt certain that this was guidance about the timing of his manifestation. When David woke up, he felt more hopeful than he had in months. And he understood that the dream was showing him that his supply was still in the early stages of manifestation, like the green shoots pushing through soil, and that he needed to continue the dream sequence programming and trust that everything was unfolding in perfect timing. David interpreted the progression from early spring to summer as indicating that his breakthrough would come after a period of steady growth rather than instantly. And he calculated that if each season in the dream represented approximately 2 weeks in real time, then he could expect his major breakthrough in about 6 to 8 weeks. This timing guidance helped David remain patient and positive instead of falling into desperation, and he continued applying for part-time positions and using the dream sequence technique. And he noticed that his interviews were going better because he felt more confident and relaxed, and he was no longer projecting the energy of desperation that had been sabotaging his earlier efforts. Exactly 6 weeks after the garden dream, David received a phone call from the local community college, and the caller explained that they had received his application for part-time tutoring work, and they needed someone immediately to help struggling students with basic math skills, and the timing was perfect because their previous tutor had just moved away unexpectedly. The position offered flexible hours and excellent pay, and David realized that his age and experience were actually advantages. Because many students felt intimidated by younger tutors, but found David approachable and patient, and within 2 weeks, he was tutoring 12 students and earning more money per hour than he had ever made as a full-time teacher. But the story gets even better, because one of David's tutoring students was the daughter of a man who owned several automobile dealerships. And when the father learned about David's car situation, he offered to sell David a reliable used car at cost with no money down and payments that David could easily afford with his new tutoring income. David realized that the timing had been absolutely perfect, because if the car solution had come earlier, he might have taken the first job offer he received instead of waiting for the tutoring position, which was much better suited to his skills and personality. And if the job had come earlier, he might not have been available when the community college needed someone immediately. The envelope that the man in the dream had given him turned out to be symbolic of the job offer letter that arrived in his email exactly 8 weeks after the first garden dream. And David understood that his subconscious had known the precise timing all along and had been preparing him to recognize and respond to the opportunities when they appeared. Florence taught that divine timing always serves your highest good, even when you cannot understand the delays. And she explained that your subconscious can see the complete picture of how your manifestation fits into the larger pattern of your life and the lives of others. And sometimes what appears to be a delay is actually divine intelligence arranging circumstances for a much better outcome than you originally envisioned. Seasonal dreams are common in supply manifestation, and they provide reliable guidance about timing. And if you dream of winter or barren landscapes, it usually means you are in a period of preparation and inner work. And your manifestation is still forming in the invisible realm. And if you dream of spring with new growth appearing, it means your supply is beginning to manifest, and you should expect early signs. Soon, summer dreams with abundant sunshine and growth indicate that your manifestation is accelerating, and you should be alert for opportunities and connections that advance your supply. And autumn dreams with harvest imagery suggest that your supply is almost ready to appear, and you should prepare to take action and receive what you have been. Programming clock or time imagery in dreams provides specific timing guidance, and if you see specific times or dates in dreams, pay close attention, because your subconscious might be showing you exactly when to expect your breakthrough. And if you dream of rushing or being late, it usually means you are trying to force timing and need to surrender to divine flow. Weather patterns in dreams also indicate timing, and clear sunny skies suggest that the timing is perfect for manifestation, while storms or clouds usually indicate that you need to wait for conditions to improve, and fog or mist suggests that the timing is not yet clear and you need more patience and preparation. The fifth movement of the dream sequence involves surrendering your human timeline and asking your subconscious to show you the perfect timing for your supply. And you say before sleep, I trust divine timing for my supply, and I surrender my impatience, and I know that everything unfolds in perfect order, and then you pay attention to timing symbols in your dreams, and you adjust your expectations and actions accordingly. Trusting divine timing does not mean being passive, but rather being responsive to the guidance you receive through dreams, and staying prepared and alert while allowing the manifestation to unfold naturally. And this balance between preparation and surrender is the key to working harmoniously with divine timing instead of fighting against it. Your subconscious already knows the perfect timing for your supply manifestation, and while you sleep tonight, you will receive clear guidance about when to expect your breakthrough and how to remain patient and positive during the preparation period. And you can trust this timing completely because it serves your highest good and creates the most abundant outcome possible. Continue allowing and trusting, because divine timing is operating perfectly in your life. And what comes next is about connecting with the collective field of supply consciousness. Because thousands of souls are programming their subconscious for supply simultaneously. And this creates a powerful field effect that accelerates manifestation for everyone who participates. When Florence Scovel Shinn discovered the power of dream sequence programming, She also realized that individual consciousness does not exist in isolation, but is connected to what she called the collective dream field, where thousands of souls can share the same supply consciousness and create an amplification effect that accelerates manifestation for everyone who participates. And this understanding transformed her work from individual healing to collective awakening of supply consciousness. The collective dream field operates according to the spiritual principle that consciousness is unified, and when multiple people program their subconscious with the same decree or intention, they create what modern science might call a morphic field that makes it easier for everyone to access supply consciousness and manifest abundance. And this is why group meditation and collective prayer have always been more powerful than individual practice. Florence discovered that when her students applied the dream sequence technique simultaneously, they often reported similar dream symbols and synchronized manifestations that appeared to be coordinated by some invisible intelligence. And she began to understand that the subconscious mind during sleep can access not only individual supply, but collective supply that benefits entire groups and communities. Understanding collective supply consciousness means recognizing that your individual abundance does not take away from others, but actually creates more abundance for everyone, because supply is infinite. And when you successfully manifest through dream programming, you strengthen the collective field and make it easier for others to manifest. And this creates an upward spiral of prosperity that benefits all participants. The sixth movement of the dream sequence involves consciously connecting with this collective field before sleep and knowing that thousands of souls around the world are decreeing the same words and programming their subconscious for supply. And when you fall asleep, knowing that you are part of this collective consciousness, your individual manifestation becomes part of a larger movement of awakening to natural abundance. Susan was 53 years old, and she had been struggling with debt and financial insecurity for most of her adult life, despite working multiple jobs and trying various business ventures. And she felt isolated and alone in her financial struggles, until she discovered that 4 of her friends were facing similar challenges, and they decided to apply the dream sequence technique together as a group experiment. The 5 women began meeting every Sunday evening to share their experiences with dream programming and to support each other through the manifestation process, and they discovered that when they programmed their subconscious together, their individual results were dramatically accelerated, and they began having similar dreams and receiving supply through interconnected channels. Sarah was a single mother, working as a waitress and struggling to pay for her daughter's medical expenses. And she had been programming her subconscious for 3 weeks when she dreamed of herself in a beautiful garden, sharing water from an endless pitcher with other women, and she felt deeply connected and supported. And when she woke up, she knew this dream was about collective supply. That same night, Jennifer, who was facing foreclosure on her small bookstore, dreamed of being in the same garden with 4 other women, and they were all sharing from the same abundant source, and she felt the strength and support of sisterhood, and she understood that their individual manifestations were connected and would support each other. Lisa, who had been unemployed for 8 months, dreamed of standing in a circle with 4 women, and they were all holding hands, and golden light was flowing between them, and she felt their collective power, and she knew that their combined intention was more powerful than any individual effort could be. Maria, who was struggling to start her catering business, dreamed of cooking in a large kitchen with 4 other women, and they were preparing a feast that would feed hundreds of people. And she felt the joy of abundance and service, and she understood that her business success would create opportunities for others. Rebecca, who had been caring for her elderly mother while trying to maintain her graphic design business, dreamed of sitting at a large table with 4 other women, and they were all working on different creative projects, but sharing inspiration and resources, and she felt supported and encouraged in a way she had never experienced. When the 5 women shared their dreams at their next meeting, they were amazed to discover that they had all dreamed of being together in different settings, but always as a group of 5 women sharing abundance and supporting each other. and they realized that their subconscious minds were communicating and coordinating their manifestations through the collective dream field. Within 2 weeks of having these connected dreams, the women began experiencing synchronized manifestations that benefited the entire group, and Sarah received an unexpected insurance settlement that covered her daughter's medical bills, and she was able to reduce her work hours and focus on completing a nursing degree that would provide better income. Jennifer's bookstore was saved when a local investment group offered to buy the building and lease it back to her at affordable terms. And the same investment group was looking for a caterer for their events, and they hired Maria, whose business immediately became profitable and sustainable. Lisa found employment with a marketing firm that needed graphic design services, and they contracted with Rebecca, whose business expanded rapidly, and Rebecca was able to hire an aide to help care for her mother, which gave her more time to focus on her work and her creative projects. The women understood that their individual successes were interconnected and that each person's manifestation had created opportunities for the others. And they continued meeting and supporting each other, and they began teaching other groups how to use collective dream programming for mutual benefit and abundance. Florence taught that when you participate in collective supply consciousness, you tap into what she called the universal bank account, where there is unlimited abundance available to everyone. And your withdrawal from this account does not reduce what is available to others, but actually increases the total amount, because consciousness expands when it is shared and expressed. The collective dream field operates most powerfully when participants share the same core intention, while allowing for individual variations in how that intention manifests. And when groups of people program their subconscious with complementary goals, they create what Florence called a supply constellation, where each person's success supports and amplifies the success of others. Group dream programming works best when participants maintain regular contact and share their dreams and manifestations, because this conscious connection strengthens the subconscious link and creates accountability and support that accelerates results in groups that meet consistently and support each other. Always achieve faster and more abundant manifestations than individuals working alone. The key to accessing collective supply consciousness is to release any belief that abundance is limited or that your success might prevent others from succeeding, and to embrace the truth that supply is infinite and that your manifestation actually creates more abundance for everyone. And when you sleep with this understanding, you connect with the collective field automatically. Before sleep, you can consciously connect with the collective dream field by knowing that thousands of souls around the world are programming their subconscious for supply at the same time. And you can say, I receive as part of the collective blessing, and my supply serves the highest good of all, and then you allow your individual manifestation to become part of the larger movement toward universal abundance. You can also send support and blessings to other souls who are working to manifest supply by holding the intention that their programming is successful and that they receive everything they need for their highest good. And this generosity of spirit actually accelerates your own manifestation, because giving and receiving are the same action in consciousness. The collective dream field is especially powerful during times of economic uncertainty or crisis, because these challenges awaken people to seek spiritual solutions. And when large numbers of people simultaneously program their subconscious for supply, they create a tipping point that can shift the consciousness of entire communities and regions. You are already connected to this collective field simply by listening to these teachings and programming your subconscious with the dream sequence. And tonight, when you sleep, you join thousands of souls who are awakening to their natural supply consciousness, and your individual success contributes to the collective awakening of humanity to abundance consciousness. The sixth movement of the dream sequence involves embracing your role in this collective awakening and knowing that your supply manifestation serves not only your individual needs, but also demonstrates the power of supply consciousness to others who are watching and learning, and this understanding adds purpose and meaning to your manifestation work. Your subconscious is already connecting with the collective dream field, and while you sleep tonight, you will contribute to and benefit from the combined intention of thousands of souls who are programming their consciousness for abundance, and this collective power will accelerate your individual manifestation in ways you cannot imagine. Continue resting in this knowing, because you are not alone in this work, and you are part of a powerful movement of souls who are reclaiming their birthright of natural abundance. And what comes next is the culmination of everything we have shared as I guide you through the stories that seal all of these teachings into your consciousness permanently. As we approach the final moments of this teaching, let us gather together all the threads of wisdom that have been woven through your consciousness during these past hours, and you have received the complete dream sequence for instant supply as taught by Florence Scovel Shinn. And your subconscious has absorbed every word and every story and every principle, even if your conscious mind has drifted or if you have been sleeping, because the deepest learning happens when the analytical mind steps aside and allows truth to enter directly. You learned first about programming your sleep consciousness with the decree, "I sleep in the consciousness of supply," and how these words become seeds planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious that grow while you rest and reorganize your reality to align with supply consciousness. And you discovered that the 8 hours you spend sleeping each night are actually the most powerful time for manifestation when used consciously and purposefully. You absorbed the teaching about identity transformation during sleep, and how declaring "I am naturally and constantly supplied" changes who you are being rather than just what you are wanting. And this identity shift is permanent because it happens at the subconscious level where all lasting change occurs. And when you become someone who naturally receives supply rather than someone who needs supply, everything in your external world shifts to match this inner truth. Receive the wisdom about surrendering resistance during sleep, and how the third movement of releasing all blocks and fears allows your natural receiving consciousness to emerge without effort. And you learned that resistance dissolves naturally during sleep when you simply acknowledge it with love and surrender it to the higher intelligence that operates while you rest. You discovered how to read the divine language of dreams and interpret the symbols and feelings and guidance that your subconscious provides to show you what to expect and when to expect it. And you learned that water and light and gifts in dreams are all confirmations that your supply is flowing towards you through channels you may not yet be able to see with your conscious mind. You absorbed the teaching about divine timing and how your subconscious can show you not only what will manifest, but when it will appear, and how trusting this timing creates space for even more abundant outcomes than your conscious mind originally conceived. And you learned that impatience blocks supply while trust accelerates manifestation. You connected with the collective dream field and understood that your individual manifestation is part of a larger awakening of supply consciousness that benefits everyone, and that thousands of souls are programming their subconscious simultaneously and creating a powerful field effect that amplifies results for all participants. Now I want to share with you the most powerful story I have ever heard about dream sequence manifestation, because this story contains every element we have discussed, and it will seal all of these teachings permanently into your consciousness and demonstrate the extraordinary power that becomes available when someone applies the complete dream sequence with absolute faith and consistency. Linda was 55 years old, and she was a single mother of 3 children, and she had been struggling financially since her divorce 7 years earlier. And despite working 2 jobs, she was constantly behind on bills, and her oldest daughter needed money for college, and her middle son required expensive therapy for a learning disability, and her youngest daughter needed dental work, and Linda felt like she was drowning in responsibilities and financial pressure. The crisis reached its peak when Linda received 3 devastating pieces of news in the same week. And first, her landlord informed her that he was selling the house and she had 30 days to find a new place to live. And second, her car failed inspection and needed $1,800 in repairs to pass. And third, her ex-husband stopped paying child support because he had lost his job, and Linda realized she was facing complete financial collapse. That Wednesday evening, Linda sat at her kitchen table surrounded by bills and eviction notices and repair estimates, and she calculated that she needed at least $12,000 immediately just to stabilize her situation and prevent her family from becoming homeless. And she had no savings and no family to help, and her credit was already maxed out, and she felt completely hopeless and defeated. Linda had always been a practical person who believed in hard work and personal responsibility, and she had never been interested in spiritual or metaphysical teachings. But that night, in her desperation, she found herself praying to God for a miracle. And as she searched online for emergency assistance, she discovered the teachings of Florence Scovel Shinn about dream sequence programming. Something about the teaching resonated deeply with Linda, and she felt a spark of hope for the first time in months. And she decided to try the dream sequence technique because she had absolutely nothing left to lose. And she realized that her practical approach had reached its limits, and maybe it was time to try something that seemed impossible. That first night, Linda lay in her bed at 11:47, and she could hear her children sleeping in the next room, and she felt the weight of responsibility for their welfare and their future, and she could smell the faint scent of the lavender candle she had lit to calm her nerves, and the room was quiet except for the sound of rain beginning to fall outside. And she began to repeat the words, "I sleep in the consciousness of supply with every fiber of her being." Linda had never spoken to her subconscious before, but that night she poured all of her desperation and faith into the words, and she repeated, "I am naturally and constantly supplied, and supply flows to me now, and supply flows through me now," until the words became a prayer and a plea and a declaration of faith, and she felt something shifting deep in her consciousness as she drifted into sleep. That night, Linda had the most vivid dreams of her entire life, and in the first dream, she was standing in a beautiful meadow filled with wildflowers, and the sun was shining brilliantly overhead, and she felt completely peaceful and abundant, and she saw her 3 children running toward her, laughing and happy, and she knew somehow that all of their needs were met and they were safe and secure. In the second dream, Linda found herself in a magnificent library with books stretching to the ceiling, and a kind woman with silver hair approached her and said, "Everything you need is already written in the book of your life." And she handed Linda a golden key and said, "This opens every door you need to walk through." And Linda felt overwhelmed with gratitude and possibility. The third dream showed Linda standing before a large wooden door, and she used the golden key to open it, and behind the door was a room filled with light so bright she could barely see. But she heard a voice that said, "Step forward in faith, and everything will be provided." And Linda felt absolutely certain that this was a message from divine intelligence. Linda woke up feeling transformed and energized, and she continued the dream sequence programming every night, and she began to notice small synchronicities and opportunities that she had never seen before, and her confidence grew with each passing day because she felt supported by something greater than herself. On the 7th night of programming, Linda had another powerful dream where she was teaching a large group of people about overcoming financial challenges, and she felt deeply fulfilled and purposeful, and she understood that her current crisis was preparing her for a future where she would help others who were facing similar struggles. The next morning, Linda felt compelled to check her email, and she found a message from a woman named Dr. Patricia Holbrook, who had found Linda's resume online and was looking for someone to help her write a book about financial recovery for single mothers. And Dr. Holbrook offered to pay Linda $5,000 for 3 months of part-time work. Linda was amazed because she had never considered herself a writer, but she realized that her personal experience with financial struggle was exactly the expertise Dr. Holbrook needed. And when they met, Linda learned that Dr. Holbrook was a therapist who specialized in helping women rebuild their lives after divorce. And she had been looking for a co-author who had lived through the challenges she wrote about. The book project not only provided immediate income, but also connected Linda with a network of professionals who worked with women in transition. And within 6 weeks, Linda had been hired by 2 other therapists to help their clients with practical financial planning and budgeting, and her new consulting income was more than she had ever earned in traditional employment. But the most remarkable part of Linda's story happened when Dr. Holbrook invited her to speak at a conference for divorced women, and Linda shared her own story of using dream sequence programming to transform her financial situation. And after her presentation, she was approached by a literary agent who wanted to help her write her own book about spiritual approaches to financial recovery. Linda's book became a bestseller, and she became a sought-after speaker and consultant, and within 2 years, she was earning 6 figures helping other single mothers transform their financial lives, and she realized that her original crisis had been the catalyst for discovering her true purpose and calling. The house she thought she was going to lose became the headquarters for her new business, and the car repairs were paid for by her first book advance, and her children all received the education and support they needed. And Linda understood that every challenge had been preparing her for the abundance that was always meant to be hers. Linda later told me that the most important thing she learned was that supply consciousness is not about getting what you want, but about becoming who you are meant to be. And when you align with your true purpose, the universe provides everything you need to fulfill that purpose, and often in ways that are more abundant and meaningful than you ever imagined possible. This story demonstrates every principle we have covered in these teachings, and it shows what becomes possible when you apply the complete dream sequence with faith and consistency, and allow your subconscious to reorganize your entire reality according to supply consciousness. And when you trust the process completely, even when circumstances seem impossible, your subconscious has been absorbing all of these teachings and stories while you have been resting, and now you are prepared to receive the final seal that locks this programming permanently into your consciousness and creates an unbreakable connection between your sleep state and your supply manifestation. Continue breathing deeply and allowing, because everything you need has already entered your consciousness, and what comes now is the sacred moment when all of this wisdom becomes permanently installed in your subconscious through the power of decree and divine authority. Even if you have been sleeping throughout this entire teaching, something in you has remained awake and alert and receptive to every word that has been spoken, and this part of your consciousness never sleeps and never rests, and it has been absorbing and integrating and installing every principle and every story and every technique that has been shared. And now, in these final moments, this awakened consciousness prepares to receive the ultimate seal that locks everything permanently into your subconscious. This awakened part of you is your true spiritual identity that exists beyond personality and beyond circumstances and beyond the limitations of your human experience, and it knows with absolute certainty that you are naturally and eternally supplied, because supply is your birthright as a spiritual being having a human experience. And tonight, this truth becomes permanently activated in your consciousness through the power of sacred decree. Breathe deeply with me now and feel your body relaxing even more completely. And if you are lying down, allow yourself to sink deeper into comfort and peace. And if you are sitting, allow your shoulders to release all tension and your chest to open and expand, and feel the rhythm of your breathing becoming slower and deeper and more peaceful with each breath you take. I want you to understand that what happens in these next few minutes will change the fundamental programming of your subconscious mind and create a permanent connection between your sleep state and infinite supply. And this connection will operate automatically every night for the rest of your life, and will continue to bring you abundance through channels you cannot yet imagine. The first seal is the seal of completion. And I speak this with absolute authority from the realm of infinite supply, where all abundance already exists in perfect form and is simply waiting for your consciousness to claim it. And this seal declares that your supply manifestation is already finished in the realm of spirit, and your dreams will now show you the visible form of what has already been completed. Breathe deeply as I speak these words over your consciousness, and allow them to penetrate every cell of your being and every layer of your awareness. It is finished. It is done. It is already accomplished in the invisible realm, and it cannot be otherwise. It is finished. It is done. It is already accomplished in the invisible realm, and it cannot be otherwise. It is finished. It is done. It is already accomplished in the invisible realm, and it cannot be otherwise. Feel these words settling into your consciousness like seeds of divine truth that will grow and multiply and manifest in your physical reality, and know that something fundamental has shifted in your subconscious programming, and you are no longer someone who hopes for supply, but someone who knows that supply is already secured. The second seal is the seal of identity, and this seal declares your true spiritual nature as a being who is naturally and constantly supplied, and this identity overwrites every false belief about lack and limitation and struggle and poverty consciousness, and establishes your permanent identity as a channel for infinite abundance. Breathe deeply and feel this new identity awakening in every fiber of your being. As I speak these words with divine authority, I am a natural receiver of infinite supply. I have always been supplied, I will always be supplied, and it cannot be otherwise. I am a natural receiver of infinite supply. I have always been supplied, I will always be supplied, and it cannot be otherwise. I am a natural receiver of infinite supply. I have always been supplied, I will always be supplied, and it cannot be otherwise. Feel this identity settling into your bones and your blood and your cellular memory, and know that you can never again truly believe that you are separate from supply, because this truth has been sealed into your consciousness at the deepest level and will express itself automatically in your dreams and in your daily experience. The third seal is the seal of flow, and this seal establishes the permanent channel between infinite supply and your human experience, and declares that abundance flows to you and through you in perfect divine order and timing. And this flow cannot be stopped or interrupted, because it operates according to spiritual law, which is more powerful than any human circumstance. Breathe deeply and feel the channel opening in your consciousness as I speak these words that establish the eternal flow of supply. Supply flows to me now. Supply flows through me now. This flow is eternal and uninterrupted, and it cannot be otherwise. Supply flows to me now. Supply flows through me now. This flow is eternal and uninterrupted, and it cannot be otherwise. Supply flows to me now. Supply flows through me now. This flow is eternal and uninterrupted, and it cannot be otherwise. Feel the energy of infinite abundance beginning to flow through your consciousness, and know that this flow has been permanently established and will operate continuously, whether you are awake or asleep, and whether you are conscious of it or not, because it has been sealed by divine decree. The fourth seal is the seal of divine timing, and this seal aligns your human experience with the perfect timing of infinite intelligence and declares that your supply manifests at exactly the right moment for your highest good and the highest good of all. And this timing is always perfect, even when your human mind cannot understand the reasons. Breathe deeply and surrender all impatience and anxiety about timing. As I speak these words that establish divine timing in your life, divine timing governs my supply. Everything unfolds in perfect order. I trust the wisdom of infinite intelligence, and it cannot be otherwise. Divine timing governs my supply. Everything unfolds in perfect order. I trust the wisdom of infinite intelligence, and it cannot be otherwise. Divine timing governs my supply. Everything unfolds in perfect order. I trust the wisdom of infinite intelligence, and it cannot be otherwise. Feel your consciousness releasing all need to control timing and surrendering to the perfect wisdom of divine intelligence that sees the complete picture of your life and orchestrates your supply for maximum abundance and benefit. The fifth seal is the seal of collective blessing, and this seal connects your individual supply with the collective awakening of supply consciousness in humanity and declares that your abundance serves the highest good of all and contributes to the healing and prosperity of the world. Breathe deeply and feel your heart opening to include all beings. As I speak these words that connect you with collective supply consciousness, My supply serves the collective good. My abundance blesses all beings I receive as part of the universal blessing, and it cannot be otherwise. My supply serves the collective good. My abundance blesses all beings I receive as part of the universal blessing, and it cannot be otherwise. My supply serves the collective good. My abundance blesses all beings I receive as part of the universal blessing, and it cannot be otherwise. Feel your consciousness expanding to embrace your role in the collective awakening, and know that your supply manifestation contributes to the healing of lack consciousness in humanity and helps to establish abundance as the new normal for all beings. The sixth seal is the seal of gratitude, and this seal establishes permanent gratitude consciousness that magnetizes even greater abundance, because gratitude is the highest frequency that consciousness can hold. And when you live in constant gratitude, you become irresistible. To supply of every kind, breathe deeply and feel gratitude flooding every cell of your being. As I speak these words that establish permanent gratitude, consciousness, I am grateful for my eternal supply. I am grateful for divine providence. I am grateful for infinite abundance, and it cannot be otherwise. I am grateful for my eternal supply. I am grateful for divine providence. I am grateful for infinite abundance, and it cannot be otherwise. I am grateful for my eternal supply. I am grateful for divine providence. I am grateful for infinite abundance, and it cannot be otherwise. Feel gratitude becoming your natural state of being, and know that this gratitude consciousness will magnetize abundance from every direction and create a life of joy and fulfillment and purpose. The seventh and final seal is the seal of completion, and this seal declares that the entire dream sequence programming is now permanently installed in your subconscious and will operate automatically every night for the rest of your life, and will continuously bring you abundance through your dreams and through your waking experience. Breathe deeply and feel the completion of this sacred work as I speak these final words with absolute divine authority. And so it is sealed in my consciousness, and so it remains throughout eternity, and so it manifests in perfect form, and it cannot be otherwise, and so it is sealed in my consciousness, and so it remains throughout eternity, and so it manifests in perfect form, and it cannot be otherwise, and so it is sealed in my consciousness, and so it remains throughout eternity, and so it manifests in perfect form, and it cannot be otherwise. Feel the completion of this sacred installation and know that something profound and permanent has occurred in your consciousness, and you are forever changed and forever connected to infinite supply. And this connection will serve you for the rest of your life. You can continue resting now and allowing these seals to integrate completely into your consciousness, and everything that needed to enter your awareness has already entered, and everything that needed to be activated has already been activated. And when you wake, you will carry this new programming into your daily life. Your dreams tonight and every night from now on will be guided by supply consciousness, and will show you exactly what you need to know about your manifestations. And you will naturally and automatically apply the dream sequence technique because it has been sealed into your subconscious programming. Rest now in the knowing that it is finished and it is done, and your supply is assured, and you are forever connected to the infinite abundance that is your spiritual birthright. And nothing can ever separate you from this truth because it has been sealed with divine authority, and so it is, and so it remains, and so it is eternally established. It is finished.